Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, and welcome to Work Trends with Megan M. Biro. Whether you're here to network, learn, or share, we want you to have fun. During this live broadcast and Twitter chat, we'll discuss the future of work with smart and entertaining guests who value today's business and its impact on the world of work for the future. Stay tuned, because we start in 3, 2, 1.
Hello there. Welcome to another informative Talent Culture Work Trends live podcast and Twitter chat, my friends. I'm hanging with a great group today and a great person who I've known for several years. I'm excited to introduce her soon. But before all that hubbub begins, yes, indeed, we are talking about data-driven hiring as it relates to millennials. Yay! Everybody who knows me knows I love this topic. I love talking about it, whether you're a hater or a lover of the millennial topic, whether you think it needs to be here now and it's very trendy and happening, or you think it's very yesterday to even be bringing up millennials in the conversation. We want to hear from you. We're going to be unfolding this on the podcast, which is happening for the next half hour, and then we're going to take this party over to the Twitters using the Work Trends hashtag to discuss this with all of you, because I like to hear from you, right? So anyways, happy summer, everybody. If any of you out there are going to be at SHRM in D.C., which is coming up right around the block, let me know. I'll be there on the Blog Squad. And I'll be a speaker on the Smart Stage talking about what else? Culture, right? How to future cast, how to look into the future and read your crystal balls. I'm excited to see everybody. I want to thank all of my friends and sponsors, including today's sponsor, which is iCIMS. Great team there and great group of people. So I want to thank you for continuing to support the talent culture community and all that you do for us. All right, so recruitment data, right? It's kind of more important now, I think. I know I've been talking about it for probably 6,000 years or maybe just 6 years, right? But it's continuing to grow for strategic workforce planning, specifically when considering the growing number of young workers joining the labor pool, right? So with millennials becoming the majority of today's applicants and expected to make up 75% of the workforce by 2025, it's pretty clear, I think, not only to me, but to probably you, that businesses need to attract young talent to survive right now. The key to bringing them in, right, and I'm using the word them in air quotes, right, them, you, me. The key is using hiring data insights to design a candidate experience. I know many of you know I'm on the talent board. I'm a volunteer there, and I spend a lot of my time with the team over there helping them spread the good word around what is candidate experience, why it matters for brands, and all that fun stuff. When we talk about candidate experience, right, this means what? This means mobile. This means having a mobile portal and a social media linked application process, hopefully. Also, hopefully you're being authentic if you're a brand out there and you're kind of working with your teams to put it all together and make yourself stand out, right? And not doing it in a way where you just want to be popular. Don't do that to me. So personally, I write and talk a lot about many of these topics: candidate experience, social, mobile, employer brand, and of course, millennials and Gen Z taking over the workforce by storm. So today's special guest, and is also a friend of mine, is Susan Vitale. She's an absolute powerhouse in these areas, and she's here to help us connect them all together to formulate hiring strategies that will work for the future. So let me tell you just a little bit about Miss Susan Vitale. She joined, and I hope you guys is everyone sitting down with seatbelts on? She joined iCIMS in 2005. 2005, everybody, okay? And she's not a millennial. She serves as the company's chief marketing officer. As the CMO, she's ultimately responsible for the iCIMS brand across prospective and existing customers, industry influencers, candidates, and employees. She also plays an active role in the company's portfolio and pricing strategies, helping to ensure iCIMS products and services remain on the pulse of the ever-changing HR technology landscape. As we know, very dynamic times. Susan is also going to be speaking at the upcoming SHRM Annual Conference on June 20th. If you want to check her out, she's going to be talking and speaking at 1 p.m. there in D.C., talking about strategic hiring, unlocking recruitment success through big data of all things. So if you're going to be at the conference like we are, I'll be there at Susan's, listening to Susan and kind of, cheering her on, and we hope you will be as well. So, Susan, what say you? Hey there. What's happening?
Thanks so much for having me, and thanks for the warm welcome, both on Twitter and on the podcast. I'm very glad to join you today and talk about millennials and data-driven recruitment.
Well, and I mean, you're not a millennial, right? We can all be honest about that. Can we kind of talk a little bit about who you are, Susan, and like what led you to iCIMS in 2005? And oh my goodness, what are you still doing there? I mean, it's got to be on everybody's mind right now. Really, why are you still there?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. It's been about 11 years. I'll be celebrating 11 years with iCIMS this summer. I started with a company straight out of college. And at the time, iCIMS was 30-some-odd employees. We were based in a small office in Hazlitt, New Jersey, which is near the Jersey Shore. But there was no fist pumping. And yet I'm still there without that. Yeah, it's interesting. The company has grown so much since I've been there. Now we're about 600 employees, about 3,200 customers, whereas when I started, we were something like 250 customers. So the growth has been unbelievable, and that's a big part of why I've stayed with the business. There's just been so much positive growth, both personally for me as I've grown my career as well as for the business. It's been really exciting to be a part of. I've been really lucky that I started with a small company that was willing to have me and still is.
Yeah, right.
And I've met some really, really wonderful people within the business. Some of my closest friends and friendships have stemmed out of iCIMS. So I think just the company culture and our path has made me realize that there'd be no other place I'd want to be.
And it's got to be authentic, or else I know you well enough, and I've met members of your team where there's definitely that authenticity going on there. And I also want to take a moment to give a shout-out to Anthony, who does a lot of your social media work. He does a phenomenal job, and the rest of the team there, so shout-out. Now, do you guys ever do outings in New Jersey? Have you been on the scene of Jersey Shore, or what? You guys ever go out and do the New Jersey thing, or what?
We try and keep most of our Jersey activities to our beach cleanups, and Jersey beaches do sometimes need that. Park cleanups. We're a very green company. That's really all our corporate responsibility program is centered around. So it's more about greening and beautifying New Jersey because we get a bad rap. We have a bad reputation.
Right.
As you mentioned, we are very authentic, which I think is a characteristic that anyone from New Jersey has. We can't help it.
Love it. Love it. We can't help it to speak what's on our mind or tweet.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're also tweeting what's on our mind today, everybody. Come join us. Be part of the conversation. Absolutely. So I'm passionate about candidate experience, right? So I want to kind of get you and I and maybe, have everybody weigh in later on the Twitter portion of this conversation. But can you explain to me your angle on the connection between younger applicants, I'll say, and a stellar candidate experience?
Yeah, so I think you started the chat by saying some people feel very strongly one way or another on this generation that's coming into the workforce and how far we go in making them happy with their experience. But I think one of the reasons that this is paramount for this audience is that this generation, millennials, they've been used to sharing everything since they've been able to hold an iPad, which is getting younger and younger based on what I see at airports and so on. But because they share that experience, grassroots information about whether it's positive or negative really spreads quite quickly. And I know that the Candy Awards have shown some of the best practices in that, as well as some data that talks about how often bad experiences are shared and what that does, not only for the employment consumer brand as well and the negative impact there. What we're seeing, though, is that there is a tightening job market, so the balance is starting to tip in favor of job seekers. And as a result, a number of these job seekers really feel like they have the upper hand, and they want to be wooed. They want to be handheld throughout the process. And frankly, I think part of it is also that these expectations are just completely off. Some people will say it's due to helicopter parents for this generation, and therefore they expect everything to be handed on a silver platter and everything is wonderful. And some say it's just because they're in debt and they really want a job. So there are a few different schools of thought, but I think it's really the socialization of the information that is driving a lot of it.
You know, we talk a lot about, how people are construing what it is to be in a culture, in a workforce. What do you think younger candidates need to realize about the workforce? And is that any different than, Gen Xers and Boomers, for that matter? Like, what do you think we all need to realize right now about workforce, how it's changing specifically?
So I think it's interesting. There are a couple things I'd throw out. One is that the compensation expectations are completely off. We did a study on this that was just published about 2 weeks ago in mid-May, and we surveyed outgoing college seniors as well as recruitment professionals at U.S.-based employers to see, who's crazy here. Turns out class of 2016 is a little off in their thinking. More than 40% of them thought that they were going to earn at least $50,000 coming out of school. But about half of the companies pay their employees $35,000 or less.
What?
Yeah. So
I mean, really? Come on.
Yep. Thought they'd earn at least $50,000. But not even just that that's not realistic. It's far less than that. Most of the companies that are paying less than that actually pay less than $35,000. So that's one thing right out of the gate. That forget about if you're going to, woo them over a fancy dinner to bring them on board or not. Just what do they think they're going to earn is already completely off, which I thought was kind of sad, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, it is sad. And it's like, how many people have been chronically unemployed or underemployed, right? For the last 5 years.
But it's interesting.
So,
you know what? I think a lot of these entry-level folks don't realize how competitive it is for them. So as much as the labor market's tightening, obviously that's not universal across all positions, all industries. We saw that on average, recruiters are receiving about 133 applications per entry-level position. So a lot of these entry-level candidates are coming in thinking that just because they have a degree and they're graduating university means that they're already differentiated or unique or, a really great land for a company. And the reality is they're one of many, 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 and they're not realizing how competitive it is for them and how they need to stand out and do some really basic things like brush up on their interview skills, send thank you notes. I was horrified to see that less than 25% of entry-level candidates are sending thank you notes after an interview. Manners 101.
Really? That is manners. And you know what? There's people who still send me handwritten thank you notes to my office. And I'm like, you know what? Actually, this person's starting to stand out to me because, I'm so used to being on text and I'm all right. I'm old school enough to deal with that. I think it's actually kind of a classy move. And I would advise everybody out there, don't forget about these little tiny touches that we talked a lot about.
Exactly.
Well,
it's even that I think some of the candidates don't realize that it's less about their technical proficiency and more about what makes them unique once they get there, their soft skills. Even when they get to the interview, I was shocked to see 99% of the recruiters said that their entry-level candidates needed a big improvement in their interview skills. They weren't asking relevant questions. They weren't familiar with the company. They weren't speaking clearly about their past experience. But the candidates think they're doing a great job. So I think that's kind of the wake-up call that this audience needs.
Yeah. Susan, let's not also forget that we've got a lot of video interviewing happening. So if you don't do well in a video format, you might not even make it into the office.
Absolutely.
So,
I think video is a great way. Yep.
Yeah.
We've seen actually a lot of customers
ways.
Use video for campus hiring, too. They can't afford to go on campus, so they leverage video. And a lot of these really basic things millennials don't think about. Do you have a weed poster hanging behind you in your dorm room? Things like this.
True. But that does show your personality, by the way.
It does.
I can go either way on that. We can go either direction on that one, right? But it does show that somebody's creative, in air quotes. So I talk a lot about mobile. Can you explain to me from your angle what it is to be an optimized mobile portal? What that means?
Yeah, this is an interesting one. We have a lot of different areas of mobile as it relates to the candidate experience that people need to think through. There are mobile apps that people can build and expect candidates to download for them to browse jobs for their company. To me, that's not necessarily ideal unless you have a powerhouse brand where you expect candidates really will go through the step of downloading your app to apply for jobs just at your company. That's probably unlikely otherwise. And that's why mobile responsive portals and mobile optimized portals are really falling into favor for most employers. And the concept there is if it's mobile responsive, the device automatically will render the portal to match that device. So there's no pinching and squinching. Everything fits appropriately without anybody having to download anything, whether you're on a Droid, an iPad, whatever else. That said, I do think that there's a difference between mobile responsive and mobile optimized. Sometimes people think they're all of a sudden mobile because their portal doesn't require pinching or scrolling. But the reality is you need to take it a step further and think about, now that someone's on a mobile career site, what else do we need to change? For example, do you have a crazy amount of content that now takes up an entire phone screen that nobody's going to want to read? Are you allowing candidates to upload or share their resume off of Google Drive or Dropbox because they don't save it locally on their phone and those kinds of things? So there are nuances above and beyond just the hosting of the site and what it looks like. It needs to be thought through from an entire experience perspective.
Thank goodness, right? I mean, we're getting to the point where we're talking nuance, which is really exciting. It's not just about you need to be mobile. It's like you need to actually be looking at the details and how long it's taking to actually apply, right? I mean, all of these little things are UX and candidate experience focused, which really do add up right now.
Right,
so
and I think it's interesting. Some people don't realize that they ask every question under the sun on their initial application, and that information is not needed until far later in the process, if even then, that you don't need all the information out of the gate. If you're looking for volume, you need to optimize that process. And
don't bore people. Nobody cares. Hey, by the way, nobody cares. Nobody has time.
Right.
It's like, please don't make me download yet another fly here. It's absolutely ridiculous. I'm not doing it, and I bet there's tons of other millennials and Gen Xers just like me who aren't doing it. So there. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. So what do you think? You and I both have been around long enough to be a little dangerous on the employer branding side. What do you believe from your angle is the number one rule in employer branding that will attract talent right now, relevant talent for roles? What do you think that is?
So this will probably not be what you want to hear, but I think the reality is the number one rule should be that one size doesn't fit all, even by generation. The amount of times we see data say that this is what you should do for millennials, this is what you should do for boomers, et cetera, it seems to fly in the face of everything that we've known about real people. That not every millennial wants to work at a startup in somebody's garage. Or, some of them really still want to work for a big name investment bank with the prestige that comes with it, the compensation, and work long hours. Whereas others want a great work-life balance at a small to medium-sized company. And others want, Google or bust. So while that's specific to young talent, I think it's relative to everybody.
Do people still want to work at Google? Oh, my God. I'm so jaded. Susan. Somebody help me. Somebody send me a tweet. Does people still want to work at Google? I remember when they were a startup. Oh, my goodness.
Think about it. We literally hear people say they want to work at Google because they'll get sushi lunch every day and their dry cleaning done.
Well, that's true.
You're like, well, you're working 15 hours a day.
As the cafeteria still stands out to me. I think I was last in the Cambridge Google office maybe about a year and a half ago, and it's still a standout. There's still something about that cafeteria that just it does it for me. What can I say?
Right.
So,
but what's interesting is that everybody then expects that that's what the bar is, and that everybody needs to have a cafeteria like that. And the reality
is not
Google.
Realistic. Yeah.
Right.
No, it's not realistic.
And some people say, go home at 6 o'clock, hang out with your family, go out to dinner, whatever. We don't need a cafeteria for you because that's what you can do instead. But the reality is not everybody wants that. So I think that's an important rule, is that not everybody fits into one bucket just because of their generation.
I love that. No, I actually believe that, and I'm with you on that. I think it's like there's no one size fits all, and let's stop putting people into buckets because it's just not going to work. Unfortunately, people hire people for better or for worse, and people are complex, right?
Right.
So
Absolutely.
not one culture is one fit for one person. You're a little bit savvy and sassy around social media applications, so I want to hear a little bit more about your advice on building social media applications right now. If you're out there and, somebody is a software developer and they're going to build this ideal application for job seekers right now, do you have advice on that?
Yeah, I think, again, an app for one specific employer career site is probably not something I'd recommend. Nowadays, it's so pervasive that candidates aren't looking to browse their app store and find an app just to apply for your job. But there's also the side of applications as it relates to, how you receive applications that are tied to social media profiles and those kinds of things that are still really important. Surprisingly, sites like Google Plus have done really well here. And frankly, I thought Google Plus died like a week after it launched.
I thought they died. I'm the only one that's still using Google. Hey, by the way, everybody, I started early on Google Plus, and I'm still there. Not sure why yet, but I am there if anyone wants to find me. Just saying.
It's interesting. We've seen that one is actually
it's still
really
there.
popular. Yeah. That said, we've also seen that candidates across really all demographics do want to apply for jobs using their social media profile just to really cut out the step of creating another login, password, all that good stuff.
Right.
And that's not surprising. We all know that applying for a job can feel like a job in itself. So any way we can reduce that is great. But what was interesting was that last year, about 3.5 million applications were submitted using a social media profile. And Google Plus outranked Facebook, but LinkedIn was the strongest. Yep.
Is this from that fancy new report you guys have out, the U.S. hiring trends report?
Yes. We have some of that in there. We have a lot of reports. But the hiring trends report is one that we think is fantastic. The idea there is really to say we've seen jobs reports that come out every quarter using payroll statistics and those kinds of things, and that's really rich, fantastic data. But what if we could look a few steps earlier in the process to predict what's going to happen based on job postings, candidate submissions, et cetera? We've actually hired a chief economist, Josh Wright, to run this for us. Josh, phenomenal and fantastically smart. He formerly worked at the Fed and was an economist for Bloomberg.
Oh, wow.
So he outpaces me since I did not go past Equal 101.
Yeah.
It's legit.
Yeah, this is serious. This is legit. And so this new report is basically talking about new realities for entry-level workers. Is that correct?
Yes. So, for example, one thing that we were able to look at was that while job growth remains strong, full-time positions are not outpacing the creation of part-time and contractor work enough to actually increase their share of new jobs being created. So when we talk about the gig economy and things like that, we're seeing some of that right in the data, and we thought that was meaningful, particularly for entry-level candidates who may need to be more flexible as it relates to the first jobs they get coming out of school.
Helpful, actually. And this is going to be released when?
I believe it is out now. Sorry.
It is.
Live on our website. Yep. I'm sorry. It's being released next week. Excuse me. It's the 14th of June. And we released a quarterly report regarding what's happening in the economy as far as supply and demand, where the jobs are by industry. So, for example, we're seeing certain industries have a complete lack of candidates based on industry and region. Then we're seeing it's really competitive in the Northeast, whereas in the Midwest, there are no candidates to be had. So it's really interesting data
sure you're
that
not
people
just
can
saying
take
that?
back.
Are you sure you're not just saying that because you're from Jersey?
I'm not just saying that. I swear it. I'll even tell you
sure?
that in the most recent report, we saw all the entry-level students, the soon-to-be entry-level, all wanted to go to California. That was the number one state.
There you go.
And it was followed in second place by the South. So I am not looking for any Northeast love
Wow.
right there.
Wow. All right, so we're going to go check out this data where? At isims.com?
Yep, there's an area on the
You're
site.
not going to make, hey, by the way, you're not going to make us go hang out on the site forever, are you? We're going to know where to go once we get to your site?
You'll know where to
go
once you get to the site. We're not going to ask you to put in your contact info or anything like that. Right. It's free.
Very good. All right, so there's data reports, there's dashboards, right? And then there's the person-to-person experience, which still matters, right? So how are we connecting those two in your experience right now? Like, how are we making this happen together in a cohesive way?
Yeah, I think what's interesting is that people seem to still struggle on what to automate, what not to automate, what should be person-to-person, and what should be all driven through a system. And I think the real way to bring it all together is that data should give you the objective evidence you're looking for into then having productive conversations with people. So, for example, if you're doing candidate satisfaction surveys or reports that then look at how this stacks up by hiring manager or by recruiter, you can then obviously see some trends by function or recruiter or what have you. And those results can then allow you to go back and have productive conversations saying either we're not setting the right expectations or we're taking too long to get back to candidates. These candidates are sitting in a hiring manager status for submission for way too long. So really I see that as being the way to have those person-to-person interactions that then are meaningful. But because there's still that balance of quality and speed within recruitment, not everything should be automated. Typically, I see things that are administrative, repetitive, data-heavy as being great candidates for automation, but anything that is one-to-one should be personalized. If it's one-to-many, automation is great. If it's one-to-one, personalization is the answer.
So as we're talking about all of this fancy hoopla, right, around productivity and automation, right, how is this all changing the way we look at work? I mean, do you think this is changing the workforce to be more productive, less productive, or just different?
I'm going to lean towards more productive, but the reality is it's probably just different. When we look at millennials, for example, there's a lot of data that shows that this generation is the best at multitasking. And you can probably see that if you look at your kid or a niece or a nephew or, a teenager on the bus or what have you.
Right.
They're probably on their phone, listening to music, texting,
and they are.
4 other things.
They are.
At the same time.
Agreed.
So they are multitaskers, which is great, and that can obviously mean better productivity. But I think the way in which they work is different, that they might flip to Facebook for 2 minutes and then bang out an email and then go talk with somebody or what have you, that this is a bit more of an always-on type of organization, whereas in the past, it's sort of you clock in, clock out. So I'll say it's different, but I'm hoping the optimist of me says that will mean it's more productive.
I think the same. I tend to actually concur with you on this because it's just the reality of how we're living. So we're down to 90 seconds. Thank you so much, Susan. I have one more last final burning question for you, and then we're going to take this conversation over to the Twitters. Do you think any brands are taking the candidate experience too far, almost like coddling these candidates too much? I mean, do you think there's brands out there who are actually like doing a disservice to candidate experience?
So I don't know of any specific brands that do this holistically, but I will say there are pockets of employers that definitely go too far with this for really hard to fill talent. We see shows like Silicon Valley and how much they woo the tech talent. I think that guy had an entire apartment full of free swag. And that doesn't really help all of us who are just trying to be nice and offer someone a job with legitimate benefits. But most of the processes and how it's still difficult to get a job still exists. I don't think it's changed for the most part, but there are certainly pockets that are not helping. And, we need to curb that for sure.
Yeah, you need to stop it, and we're watching you. We're from Jersey, darn it.
We'll call you out.
All right. We'll call you out. All right. So listen, thanks, Susan, and the team over at iSIMS. You guys rock my world. I will see everybody at SHRM. Looking forward to it. And for now, let's just keep the conversation moving. Thanks so much for being here.
On Twitter. Thank you. Have a
See
great
ya.
day.
Bye-bye.